This is the Deliberate Talks Weekly Podcast, powered by the Pixelated Egg Digital Ventures. Tune in every week to learn something new about digital marketing and entrepreneurship. And now, over to the voice of your host, Dakshin Adyantaya. Enjoy the show.
This is the Deliberate Talks Podcast Season 2, and hello everyone, this is Dakshin Adyantaya, here again on a good old Monday mood, bringing you a new conversation like every week. And for all sports lovers and gamers out there, this episode is going to be a treat of a dialogue with our guest today. But before that, here are some facts on esports, which is our conversation for today. Did you know in 2020, the global esports market was valued at just over $950 million? The number of online gamers in India is expected to cross 3 million this year. Also, eSport chart highlights that the viewership of the year's The League of Legends World Championship, watched from start to finish, iterates to the most watched esport tournament of all time. And based on the most watched hours, PUBG Mobile ranked as the most popular mobile esport game with 134.5 million hours stated esports charts. And now more about this mainstream sports that's transforming from a vibrant niche to a central form of entertainment globally with our guest today. So today we have someone with 20 years of experience as an esports evangelist and a telecom veteran. He's an avid gamer and currently the director of Esports Federation of India and vice president at Asian Esports Federation. Here's introducing Mr. Lokesh Suji. Hello, Mr. Lokesh. Welcome to the Deliberate Talks podcast. It's a pleasure to host you on the show today.
Yeah, hi Dakshin. Thanks for having me.
So great. Let's start with the basics first. For the world which is unaware about the stream of the sport, could you please help us understand what esports is all about?
See, esports is definitely, it's becoming buzz of the town, and the reality is that not many people are aware what esports actually is. So typically, in India, people would misunderstand esports as playing fantasy, teen patti, rummy, poker, or betting and gambling. And esports is none of these. So esports is primarily when you do competitions for a video game. When worldwide we talk about gaming, so we are talking about video games. But in India, the moment we say gaming or online gaming, we are talking about playing Teen Patti, Rummy, fantasy, poker, gambling, and all those things. And that is a concern because we as video gaming, obviously for esports, the video game is a base thing. You need to have a video game. And on that, we do competitions or tournaments. Right. So, coming back and answering to your question, what is, if Teen Patti, fantasy, rummy, poker is not esport, then what is esport? So esports is basically when you have tournaments and competitions on video games. So it also does not mean that any kind of video game, if you are doing a competition, that would mean esports. So for example, for this could be that if you're playing the Ludo video game, and if you're playing it with, let's say, your friends, family, online, so that this does not mean that this is esports. So there are only select genres of video game which fall under the category of esports. So one easily relatable genre would be sports. Example for those sports video game titles could be, FIFA 21, or something like Asphalt, or Need for Speed, and those kind of games. And the second category is your real-time strategy, wherein we talk about Clash Royale or StarCraft. Third category is your MOBA, wherein we talk about Dota or League of Legends. Then we have a genre which is called fighting, and that is where we talk about games like Tekken, Street Fighter. And last title is your first-person shooter, which is, your games like Call of Duty or Counter-Strike. I'm sure, everybody would have, heard about, played this game during college days or, So these are the genres which fall under the category of esports. So if you're, take for example, if you're playing, casually, a game like Fruit Ninja, or let's say Candy Crush. So that is not esports.
Right. Right. Makes sense. And what's the magnitude of this industry globally as well as in our country at this point of time?
See, globally, when we look at esports as a number in the terms of the revenues, and when I say revenues, largely we are talking about sponsorships, ticket sales, merchandising, media rights, and all those things.
Right.
Then this industry has already crossed around $1.2 billion. So this does not include your event management and all those things. This is purely this, the merchandise, sponsorship, media rights, and things like that, and prize monies. So that's how big this industry is, and you would be shocked to know that last year we had the world championship for a video game which is called Dota, and
Mm-hmm.
the prize pool was $34 million.
Wow.
So that's a massive. So that is the kind of magnitude which we are talking about. And in the terms of viewership numbers, we have got around some 500, 5.5 million esports enthusiasts who watch these kind of competitions on digital platforms, whether that's Twitch, YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
Facebook gaming, and then obviously there are a lot of other streaming apps. And in the terms of the number of countries involved into esports, those number of countries are around 152. And coming back to India, India is definitely one of the fastest growing market in the terms of esports. So we have somewhere around 200 or 250 million esports enthusiasts in our country. And unfortunately, the market size from an industry side of it,
Right.
there are no official numbers,
Right.
because as of today the industry side of the things is very unstructured. There are just
Mm-hmm.
few couple of organizations, typically the event management organizations, who keep on doing certain set of events in India. But again, as I said, the market otherwise is huge. There are a lot of attributes, and when we talk about esports in India, we are talking about a new industry altogether. So
Mm-hmm.
new sports and a new industry.
Right. And every sport has athletes and certain rules to play the game. In terms of esports, how many athletes do you normally have in a team represent a country or even a team for that fact? And what are some basic rules that they need to adhere to?
So in our case, different set of genres have different set of formats.
Mm-hmm.
Now, take for example, if I talk about a game like FIFA or Asphalt, or let's say Pro Evolution Soccer, so it's a single player game. When I
Okay.
say single player, in the sense, obviously you play against a human,
Right.
but the team size is only one. It's one versus one format.
Mm-hmm.
And similarly, when we look at a game like Call of Duty Mobile, so you have multiple formats. In Call of Duty Mobile, you can have one versus one, also two versus two, four versus four, and five versus five also.
Right.
And similarly, let's say Valorant is like six versus six and things like that. So that is how the structure is. So when, let's say, when we identify the players for Team India, it's largely dependent upon the game titles.
Right.
So basis that, the team is identified, and we always prefer that we always have one or two substitutes for that particular game, so that just in case some problems or some contingency, we always have a backup readily available with us.
Nice. And you're an avid gamer yourself. And before we get into the athletes part of it, I'm keen on knowing, how did you get associated one with the federation? And tell me a little bit about your journey to reach here as an avid gamer as well.
So it's a very you're right that ultimately you always have some passion, right,
Right.
which drives you to do certain set of things. And so while, unfortunately, while you were studying, you had that opportunity to play the game, but once you get into your corporate life and all those things, you typically miss out on that opportunity. And that exactly what happened with me. After studies and everything, corporate life started, and never got this chance to get back. But whenever, on the laptop, I used to try out a couple of games.
Mm-hmm.
That was a time where, Angry Birds was another title which it was very easy. Within sitting in the office also, you could spend some 10, 15 minutes playing that
Right.
game. And so subsequently, with thanks to internet access, so you could play multiplayer.
Right.
And then eventually we were lucky enough to have internet at our home with decent bandwidths and all. Because obviously, I came from the telco background, so bandwidth was never a problem for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had our Xbox at home and we started playing and everything. And that was a time wherein I realized, okay, this is something which is not big as of today.
Mm-hmm.
but definitely has a potential to be one of the biggest sport or one of the very interesting industry to be in. And that was a time wherein I left my corporate this thing and dedicated myself to this particular sport.
Mm-hmm.
And while doing all my research and everything, I came across this federation, and I went ahead, met up with those guys, and started actively engaging myself. And obviously, a lot of things happened on that front. We structured the federation, got it, registered and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are. So today we can, as a federation, we can boast of, and it with a lot of pride that we actually got a bronze medal for our country
Right.
in Asian Game 2018, wherein esports was a demonstration title, and very happy that being part of AESF also, which is the Asian Esports Federation, we finally managed to convince Olympic Council of Asia to, have esports as a medal sport into 2022 Asian Games.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been quite an enriching journey, but so a lot of goods have happened, but it never was an easy journey. There are
Absolutely.
always hiccups there. So effectively, whenever people ask me that question, I tell them, guys, just look at us as a startup itself. We have just started doing things, but we are very open to having suggestions, feedback. Anybody wants to come and work along, more
Right.
than welcome. But obviously, we are looking at people who are really passionate about this sport and selflessly want to grow this sport. Because this journey is a very I've realized that running a company is far easier than running a federation.
I'm sure.
It's
Right.
not an easy thing.
Right. And this is a script directly for a Bollywood film or an autobiography. So are you considering writing your own book
No,
of
no,
the journey?
not at all, not at all. No, 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 no.
But
No,
it's a
not at all.
wonderful
Yeah.
story to tell, sir.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. You mentioned about the Olympic Committee as well as the Olympic Council of Asia. And in a
Mhm.
couple of articles, you've also mentioned about how esports is recognized by these committees, but not really recognized by the government of India yet.
Mhm.
You also mentioned in a very nice line where you mentioned that it has the potential to grow as big as cricket or bigger than cricket in the country when the
Right.
government recognizes this. Why do you think it's not been extended as a support from the government for this particular sport?
See, one of the very, and obviously, when I initially said that, esports, people think that, it's playing fantasy or team patti, poker, and all those things. And I was not surprised when, we spoke to different people within the ministry that, we are the Esports Federation of India. I said, oh, you're like Dream 11. Right? So it was not a surprise, or I was neither shocked, right? It
Hmm.
was evident. Now, it really pains us that, this kind of perception which has been created is only in India.
Hmm.
And my fellow colleagues from other federations and other industry people from outside India, they actually laugh at when I tell them that, guys, this is the problem in India. So, see, India for esports, and I still stick with my words that we will any which way surpass cricket.
Hmm.
Right. And I'll tell you the reasons why. But, see, let's look at from a parent perspective,
Right.
right? Let's say there was some company or some organization or some reporter or whatever, because I also understand that this differentiating know-how or this understanding of esports in India is so less
Hmm.
that, let's say, if any of the organization says that, hey guys, we need to write an article and something, so the poor journalist would also put it under esports, online gaming, and everything, and he'll go ahead and he'll definitely do his job well. But because of lack of understanding about esports, somewhere or the other, you will see that there's a mention of esports.
Right.
Right. So this is one. All those articles will come up in whatever, whether that's all the top media, print, digital, whatever. Right. Now the second thing is that, and it's very funny that the picture which will be used for covering these kind of topics will always show a picture of a gamer playing, let's say, a game like PUBG on his phone, or somebody sitting in front of his PlayStation at a screen and playing a game like FIFA or these kind of things.
Right.
But the moment you start reading that article, it's all about these kind of applications. Whereas these kind of applications are typically called iGaming.
Hmm.
They're not even called e-gaming or esports.
Okay.
Now, because of these two things, when you look at a parent, right? So
Hmm.
playing video games is any which was considered waste of time in
Right.
India and maybe largely across the world, right? Now, while, as a parent, I was any which ways pushing my kids not to play or spend time or waste time in playing video games.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But now these are the parents who actually read these kind of print medias or articles coming from all the top media houses that, oh, this is. So look at from a parent side, what kind of impression a parent would get.
Right.
Oh, this is, you're spoiling your life, this is gambling and this is this is that. So
Mm-hmm.
that is the reason. So this is the one big reason why esports is also not, obviously, I'll not say that the government is not taking initiative to work upon or start thinking about esports. But way back, if you look at 2016, wherein again there was a unstart question asked by Kiran Kherji in Parliament that what is sports ministry's take on esports. So
Mm-hmm.
then our sports minister, I think it was Vijay Goyalji, if I'm not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So he stated that this is not in lines to the Olympic movement because esports does not involve any physical activity. That obviously was not correct.
Right.
Our esports does need a lot of physical activity, which may not be visible to a third person. But so that was the stand. But now today, the start question in which the Ministry of Sports submitted or tabled their replies, they very clearly stated that esports is definitely a good engaging platform, and a playing Team Pati Rami is not esports. So that in itself is a pretty big progress in the terms of this thing. And thankfully, there are a lot of discussions happening with the Ministry of Sports also. And it's good that at least our Ministry of Sports understands the difference, because that was one mindset which was kind of a mission for us. So we have achieved that mission first, creating that awareness of what is esports and why it's different from all these things in comparison to the misunderstanding which is prevailing in the country. So a lot of discussions are happening, and things thankfully are moving in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And because the sport is now included into Asian Games, and obviously because so there is a lot of movement on that front also. And answering to your question that why do I think that it will surpass cricket is that see, we already have that kind of a player base of people who are engaged in this activity.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to look at sports, the journey of sports altogether. How did sports originate? So sports originated for a very simple reason that there was a time wherein we had all these armies who had to run, jump, throw javelin, throw, use bow and arrows, do that, swords, use their sword, shields, this thing. So
Right.
in their spare time, they used to just have these small thing which are, let me run faster than you, or let me throw this javelin or a spear farther than what you can throw. And that is how the sports has evolved.
Right.
So today, when our human race is evolving to a digital environment, so our sports will also evolve. And I think esports is an evolution of that sport. The sooner we start embracing it, I think it's good for all of us. And it's not that esports is all about sitting on a couch and just playing this thing. The esports is device agnostic.
Right.
The way video games are evolving, today we are talking about augmented reality and all those things. So there are a lot of esports titles wherein you need a lot of movement.
Right.
When you wear those glasses and everything, you have to jump, crouch, and all those things. A lot of physical aspects which the third people, other people are really excited to see, and that's how the things will evolve. And it's a good time to get involved into that. And in our case, there are enough people watching these kind of game titles and everything. A lot of streaming happening. So there's already a lot of groundwork which has happened. See, unlike cricket, right? Another thing is that for any physical sport you need a lot of space to play. For a game like if you have to play a full-fledged cricket, you need a decent this thing. In our case, all we need is the devices.
Right.
So that's the reason esports is definitely just a matter of time. I don't know 10, 5, but very soon this thing will happen.
Very nice. So, but then as a federation, how are you trying to work towards bringing the importance of the sports, from the brand awareness perspective? Of course, with journalism coming into it and smart journalism coming into it and writing more about esports kind of brings in the brand awareness, not just for the parents who are reading it, but also, enthusiasts as well as the government. But how are you marketing it and how are you raising funds and sponsorship for the same? Let's get into that part of it.
See, very honestly, generating funds. See, as I said that, there are two parts to it, the federation side of it and the industry side of it.
Right.
Now, when we even look at from an industry side of it, there is not much, big sponsorship deals happening,
Mm-hmm.
right? And typically you would see that, if one sponsor has sponsored one particular event, you would see that, these sponsors don't repeat themselves. You
Right.
would not see that, there are, for let's say 2-3 years, you have a constant sponsor, or every event which you do, you have the same sponsor on board. See, a lot of things, I think first is that while we have a lot of community which is engaged into playing these kind of esports title, parallelly, I think ROIs in the terms of esports are yet not there,
Mm-hmm.
right? So what we need is, we don't need a sponsor as of today.
Mm-hmm.
What we need is somebody like an anchor partner
Right.
who understands that esports definitely has a potential, but it needs to grow as a sport first. We have to first establish ourselves as a sport.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talk about ROIs, all of those things. See, when we look at IPL, right? So IPL has reached a level. You don't have to grow the sport.
Right.
Everybody knows what is cricket, how it is played. Anybody can just walk in and, one or the other way, they can at least try that game.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In our case, that awareness is not there.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And again, as I said, whatever little bit of awareness we have, that's unfortunately on the wrong side of understanding.
Right.
So that awareness is very important. And when we look at from a federation side of it in the terms of sponsorships and everything, again, coming back to the same answer that, we are working like a bootstrap startup. So funding and all, we are trying to, bootstrap ourselves. There are a couple of good initiatives which we have taken, because of which we have been able to generate funds, and we are managing this thing. But we are not in a position wherein, fundraising is easy for us or any private operator also.
Mm-hmm.
I think it will take some time. It will take some time. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and what are these sponsorship or fundraising stories? Like you mentioned, the government side, when you go and speak to someone, they think wrongly in terms of what esports is. What's your pitch to sponsors, and how do they react when you go and have a conversation with a potential one?
See, I think our experience with the government was far better than any private organization. And I'll tell you, I don't know, and that's where, so in 2019, eventually that discussion started somewhere around 2018, late 2018 and everything.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking to Services Export Promotion Council.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, we were talking to the DG there, and she is very futuristic, right?
Okay.
And so we went ahead, we explained the things. She said, "Wow!" And eventually, she happened to visit some international conferences and all, wherein this esports championship was any which was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So she understood that, we are not talking about ROIs and all those things. So she said that it's very interesting. And as a SCPC, which is the unit under Ministry of Industry and Commerce, so they immediately came on board.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular championship, which was Nations Cup, and we had invited 7 other national federations from the different countries. And this was India's first esports championship, which was completely owned by the government.
Oh.
And completely funded by the government.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a massive event, flew in all these champions, the respective game from respective countries along with their officials.
Mm-hmm.
They stayed in the 5-star hotel, everything was taken care of. And it was a very good event.
Mm-hmm.
So when we go and talk to the brands, now from a brand perspective, unfortunately, people look at esports as an activation tool.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what one big mistake that the brands do. And I will not name that brand, and obviously it's one of the world's biggest top beverage company.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same discussion we had there. And absolutely, we had a lot of those interactions with their team, not only the domestic team, but they had some international counterparts flew into India for these meetings and all.
Right.
And it was really tough time to explain them that instead of, let's say, creating just a mobile game and this thing, why don't you build a property? Esports is the future. And very happy that they have actually replicated this model across the globe.
Mm-hmm.
And that particular beverage company is doing this kind of events across the geographies.
Right.
So that is the key here. So it's very important to be very transparent when you go and talk to the brands. See, brands don't know what esports is, right? And what are the nuances of esports?
Right.
What are the different types of game? What is the kind of, let's say, registrations you will get? What are the kind of ROIs? So whenever, as of today also, whenever the brands talk to us that, what is the kind of ROI, I tell them very honestly, I think it's too early to talk about ROI, but I think it's important that you get into the heart of a gamer.
Right.
If you have to get into the heart of the gamer, you have to get engaged with some activity through which you can reach to his heart. And for if you want to reach out to these millennials or Gen Zs, so video gaming and esports is a tool.
Right.
And esports is the best way to engage rather than pushing ads on mobile games and all those things, or building a mobile game which will die down any which way after 3-4 months. It doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So to build those stories with these athletes, look at some sponsorships, help them grow, get them some trainings done, and all
Right.
those things.
Right. Right. So, just talking about that part of the stories of the athletes, also to promote the sport and bringing in more athletes to the sport, what kind of training, what kind of opportunities, how does the scouting work from the federation point of view, and what are some esport athlete skills that are needed? If you could highlight that bit of it.
So, in the terms of, let's say, the training bit of it, okay, so how do we encourage new set of people to, let's say, pick up any of the video games, esports titles? So, a very interesting thing is that people don't pick up, a particular video game just because it was written somewhere and this thing. Largely, they are dependent upon what their friends tell them.
Mm.
And that I think, unfortunately, for whatever good or bad reasons, PUBG got banned. One of the another factor for growth of PUBG was because it actually spread like wildfire. Obviously,
Right.
there were a lot of other major reasons which led to its dominance in India.
Right.
But as a teenager, I would prefer to play that game which my friends are playing, and
Mhm.
typically in a multiplayer environment. Because if I am also playing, let's say, if you are playing a game called Clash Royale, which is again a multiplayer,
Mhm.
and I'm your friend, and then you tell me, Lokesh, why don't you download Clash Royale? We'll play online against each other.
Mhm.
That is how typically people pick up playing those game titles.
Mhm.
That is how this thing happens, not by pushing ads and other things. That may happen, but then percentage of that thing happening is very low.
Right.
The gamers automatically pick up that game.
Mm.
And the second, in the terms of the training and scouting, so again, as I said, the training is, unfortunately, we don't have a structured mechanism for training, because for us as a federation to set up those things, we need a lot of money to do that. With all the intent to do it, what we are working on is to build some kind of, and we are already in discussions with that organization. Hopefully, we will be able to finalize those things, and we will roll out these programs, which to begin with will be in a physical environment,
Mhm.
but subsequently we would shift it to online mode. But having said so, there are a lot of online curriculums and everything which are any which ways available. Like you pick up Udemy and
Mhm.
other things. The things are already available. So I don't think so. From a non-availability of a training per se in India should be a bottleneck for any serious esports athlete to grow or upskill himself, because there is enough content available online. Anybody can just go there, start looking at whatever course and other thing, and they can start, picking it up. But there are a lot of private team owners who have kind of set up their boot camps in whatever good, bad, or limited capacity. There are, you would typically see a coach and everything who does all these kind of trainings for their respective teams.
Mhm.
In the terms of scouting, so what we have done is that we have started with our ranking scrims for
Mhm.
different games. So what eventually happens is that we are inviting all these teams or the players to regularly participate in our event, so that we get the visibility, who's good, who's bad, and things like that. So at the time wherein we have to kind of finally, let's say we have to identify a team India, so
Mhm.
then we already have certain set of a database which we can also use to see that can we make up a team among these guys, or is there a existing team which is so good
Mhm.
and which can represent India.
Right. And typically the athletes, when it comes to sports, there's also an accessibility in tier 2, tier 3 cities from a grassroots level in
Right.
terms of scouting as well as development.
Hmm.
With
Hmm.
regards to esports, firstly, where are the athletes majorly from? And are they from the tier 2, tier 3 cities as well? If yes, then how is that scouting process further enhanced?
So one thing is that let's say if you're talking about traditional sport, right? So if somebody is, let's say, playing in a small town called Ladwa, right, which is near to Kurukshetra, right? So if somebody is playing cricket, good cricket in a place called Ladwa, people sitting in Kurukshetra or let's say Delhi, Calcutta, Mumbai, they would not even know that there is some player who could potentially become, let's say, a Dhoni or a Virat Kohli for India, right? But in our case, because we are an online sport, right? So all these teams typically, how does this happen is that when they play and they are playing online, right? You would see that within the game there are a lot of people, from different. Let's say I sitting in Delhi could be actually playing with that guy who's sitting in Latva, and he
Mhm.
may be equally, maybe better than, or he may be the India's best player. So that is one very big advantage, and that is how typically the teams are formed. So when I say, we have started with these daily scrims, ranking scrims, and all those things, you would
Mhm.
see that the team consists of, let's say, one person from, and maybe there are a lot of teams wherein there is nobody, no member of those teams are actually from the top tier one or even tier two cities. Somebody would be from, let's say, Bhuj, somebody from Aligarh, somebody from, let's say, Ladwa, Rador, and all those guys.
Mhm.
So that is the best part about our sport. So we are not worried about tier two, tier three, or this thing, because our game is any which way is this thing.
Right.
All we need to do is to create that awareness. That, hey guys, there is some kind of activity happening, and please. And as I said, our guys are very digitally savvy.
Mm.
They understand Instagram, they understand Twitter. Facebook is somehow dead as far as our community is concerned. But like Discord, Discord is a new communication tool
Right.
which has emerged. So
Right.
that is how things. So we're not worried about tier two. And the good thing is that a lot of these good guys, good teams are actually from these tier three, tier four cities.
Mhm. Makes sense. Interesting part you also mentioned about PUBG in your previous conversation. Now, parents is something that you've already spoken about in terms of the perception that they read and they make. But Indian households, like you also mentioned, doesn't look at video games as a career as well as a sport to enhance mental as well as physical development. Firstly,
Mhm.
with the addiction of PUBG, especially, a lot of articles came in and how it's not good for gaming. Addiction is not good for a child's mental development. Is primarily a focus of conversations also in schools, also for parents and others. How are you addressing this concern particularly, and then looking at from the scouting perspective or making awareness about the sport and why people should look at this as a career or a sport option?
See, one of the very simple reason is that people are not aware. As a parent, again, as I said that, as a parent, we are not even aware that something like this exists and our children can actually make a career out of it. And when I say career, they can actually make very good money out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Example for that could be if you're a good streamer, you can actually end up making 1-2 lakh rupees every month,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
not even from the brands and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
When you just go to YouTube and just say you search for gaming streamers and all this, and you'll find long list of people. And when they stream, there are, let's say, thousands of people who watch them, and they
Right.
give donations to them.
Mm.
So
Right.
that is how. So this is, again, as I said, that this money which I'm talking about has got nothing to do with sponsorships and anything.
Mm.
This is the spectators or the viewers actually pay donation to their streamers, right? So now coming back to the problem of, let's say, addiction and all those things. So I think specifically when we talk about PUBG or such kind of games, it is also very important as a parent to keep a track that what kind of games is my child playing.
Mm-hmm.
Now PUBG, if I'm not wrong, it says that the age limit to play PUBG is like 17 years.
Mm. Right.
And if you are, let's say, 12 year, 13 year, and if you're playing a game like PUBG, so I think the addiction thing comes later on.
Mm.
First, you have to start playing, and then over a period of time, you get addicted to it.
Right.
Right. So, and this could happen for anything. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you are less than 17 and if you are even aware that, your son is playing games like PUBG and other things, so I think largely the fault lies with the parent.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like saying that, the age to drive a vehicle in India is 18 years. And if, let's say, if you are 14, 15 years old, and as a parent, you allow your children to drive vehicles on the road, and God forbid something happens to your child, and then you start blaming, oh, you should shut down Maruti, or you should shut down the roads and everything
Mm-hmm.
because, they are bad and all those things. So that's not the correct thing. As
Mm-hmm.
a parent, if you're not even aware that what kind of game my child is playing, then I think it's largely your fault. Now, coming to the point of addiction, see, do we ever say that, he's addicted to cricket?
Mm. Right.
Do we ever say that? No. Do we ever say that he's addicted to studies? Because studies also a lot of children suicide because of the pressure and all those things.
Right.
No. We
Mm.
only say addiction because we only say somebody is addicted to something is because there is no fruitful result for doing that particular activity. That is when we say he's addicted to this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're addicted to, let's say, you're addicted to smoking, you're addicted to, let's say, alcohol, you're addicted to this thing. Do you ever say that you're addicted to work? You may say workaholic.
Mm.
When you work for a company or, let's say, your own business is the other thing.
Right.
And when you run your own company, you effectively work 32 hours out of those 24 hours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But we never say that, oh, he's addicted to work. No, we say the workaholic. That's comparatively a diplomatic, better way of saying instead of addiction. So that is the problem. It's absolutely wrong if somebody say that video games are addictive.
Mm-hmm.
If you're saying video games are addictive, I think there is some problem. I know WHO sometime way back they said that, but again, oldies sitting and talking about a new digital sport does not make sense any which ways. But later on, WHO also started this initiative which said gaming for good or connect the world through gaming and all
Right.
those things.
Right.
So it's very contrasting things. Now, while we talk about, let's say, video games, and again, depending upon what kind of games are you playing, in what age you're playing those games, they can actually help you build a lot of your cognitive skills, eye-hand coordination, and a lot of good things. There are a lot of games which take for example Minecraft kind of a game.
Right.
It's a very constructive game, and I would always suggest that depending upon whatever is the age qualification or age criteria for that kind of a game, as a
Mm-hmm.
parent, you should always allow your children to play that kind of a game.
Mm-hmm.
It's very constructive. You can make things, a lot of things. And very recently, I think the toy fair also, if you look at the Indian government, the toy fair which Indian government is doing, they're also talking about making video games that can help you learn certain set of things.
Right. Right.
Right. So it's also very important. See, as I said, that we have to evolve over a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So yesterday's wars were fought, and maybe a wrong example, but very realistic also, that yesterday's wars were fought when the soldiers had to run on their feet and then come face to face.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think that tomorrow's war gonna happen like that? No. Somebody sitting, a very good, excellent gamer would be sitting somewhere in a remote place and driving a drone and doing whatever. And that's exactly replicating in, let's say, industrial this thing wherein we are talking about augmented reality, where this thing, operations are being done using remote controls. If you have those good hand-eye coordination, then only you'll be able to move that remote to do an operation. Na? So
Right.
while you're a doctor, but you need to have that kind of experience to do those things. So it all depends upon the application of what you're doing. So if that is the case, so anything and everything is also addictive.
True.
So that clarity has to be there. But again, as I said, that I think the important thing is to put right controls onto that. That is important.
Makes sense. Let's conclude this conversation with telling some success stories about the Indian athletes in the game of esports. Could you share some success stories and some victory stories nationally as well as globally in terms of how our athletes are performing?
Absolutely. I think needless to mention and talk about Tejas Mehta, who made us proud by winning the bronze medal for a video game title, which is called Hearthstone. It is again a strategy game.
Mm-hmm.
And similarly, we have Karan Magnani. In the same Asian Games, he was placed fourth for another game title called Clash Royale. So these players which I'm talking about, they're the best in South Asia. Right. So there was a preliminary competition before our team finally went for Asian Games.
Mm-hmm.
And our teams, defeated the other counterparts from South Asia, and we were able to go for the finals there. And similarly, we have got Abhinav Tejan. He was also ranked number 4th for a video game title called Tekken in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are for Tekken. And then we have Moin. Moin is an excellent player for a video game which is based on football, which is called PES, Pro Evolution Soccer. Very aggressive player. You should definitely, take some time out to see his gameplay. Very aggressive guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a lot of these other gamers like Ankit Pant. I definitely would like to mention because he's been part of this industry for a very long time. Very mature person, and he's also doing reasonably well. He used to play Counter Strike, and they maintain a team which is India's oldest esports team. And yeah, these are the pretty much guys which we should always be benchmark for our Indian esports industry or the sport.
All right, fantastic. Well, Mr. Rokesh, that brings us to the end of the first segment. Now it's time for the second round, and this is where we pace up things with the rapid fire round. A few questions coming at you, so ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
All right then. One of your favorite games as a gamer?
Call of Duty.
Okay. Is the esports industry ready to host its own Indian Premier League?
Not now. Not the right time. Not at all. Not at all. It's a blunder. Somebody had already done that blunder. We had to manage a whole other things for following 2 years. Not at all. Not at all.
Okay. What's the most easiest way one can learn more about esports or follow it as a sport? Any channel, Any platform that you recommend highly where people start spending more time to learn about it?
I think our ESFI Discord channel, it's very engaging. In the general chat, you can meet so many people, the top and who's who of the Indian esports industry. I'll put a note of caution here that there are a lot of media sites and other things, but they largely, spew toxicity only.
Hmm.
Keep yourself away from toxicity because toxicity will never take you anywhere. As an esports athlete, you should always be focused upon your mission for achieving, let's say gold medal in Asian Games or the Olympics. Just keep yourself away from toxicity. Don't get into all that thing.
Okay. Which is the most popular esport game in India as well as global?
As of today, Free Fire, I think, takes that place. Globally, maybe Fortnite or League of Legends.
Hmm. Okay. And how can someone support and be a part of the esports universe or the federation?
We have a volunteer program, and we have a team of 30-40 people who are part of the volunteer program. One is so they depending, you are a graphics guy, you're a video guy, you're a caster, you're a streamer, you understand, let's say, how to do a tournament, everything. You should definitely apply for the volunteer program and more than welcome to contribute. The second thing is, if you want to be very active in the, let's say, the admin side of the federation, then obviously there are a lot of state, depending upon what state you come from, we can help you connect with those state associations. You can work with them, whatever capacities, depending upon your background and other all those things. Let's say if you belong to some district and comparatively you have crossed your education and all those things reasonably settled, more than welcome to become part of those district associations as the members and all those things.
Hmm.
A lot of opportunities. I think people should come back to us and let us know that this is what they do, and we'll tell them this is the place. Just hop on board.
Right. Super. Teach me three words or rules used in esports, especially for someone new like me or people who don't follow the sport.
GG,
Which means?
good game.
Okay.
WPGG, well played, good game. Newbie is obviously, for you it will be newbie, as you said. So newbie is something, obviously, somebody who is new to the game, or so we call them newbie. And then noob is, again, he doesn't know how to play. So
Right,
there are
right.
a lot of slangs in this thing. I and Unfortunately, our yeah. So there are a lot of slangs in our gaming environment. Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's fun. When someone tells you, oh, you organize these Rummy and Three Patti games, your first reaction to them would be,
I initially used to feel very bad about it because, see, it's like saying, see, there's a fact that
hmm,
gambling and other things is never looked upon India in any good way,
hmm,
right? In India, मतलब महाभारत हो गई थी उस जुए के चक्कर में,
ah,
right? So, so imagine if you are associating our esports athletes to somebody playing those kind of games. It's a disgrace. It's like saying, oh, Sachin Tendulkar, and comparing it with some gambling guy who caught because police पकड़ के ले गई कि वो gambling कर रहा था.
right, right.
That it's initially I used to feel very bad about it, angry also, absolutely, because it's not fair. How can you call our, or even perceive that our esports athletes are equivalent to somebody doing gambling and all those
Right,
things.
right.
So it's very, but now we have become used to it. We try to help them, we try to explain them, and that's how typically our slides and presentations start with the first slide, telling that, guys, this is not esports. It's a very funny thing in India. We have to do a double duty while we
Uh-huh.
are doing all those things. The good things that you asked in the terms of training and ESF. So we have to equally spend that kind of time educating the Indian universe that playing the empathy, poker, rummy, fantasy is not esports.
Great, right. And finally, what's lined up for the Federation as well as what are the tournaments to look forward to this year?
One is, of course, as a federation, let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's hope that, Ministry of Sports speedens up their process and recognizes our sport.
Hmm.
And subsequently, in the terms of, let's say, the tournaments and other things, our ranking schemes are any which ways on. We have daily tournaments for different set of games. We'll be adding as we move forward. We'll keep on adding the new games onto that. But largely, I think our esports world championship, which is done by the International Esports Federation. Then there are two other big tournaments lined up by the Asian Esports Federation, and there's another federation. So we'll be doing those qualifiers and everything.
Hmm.
And then subsequently, there are a lot of other good things lined up. Would not want to disclose right now, but as and when the plans get finalized, we'll definitely do announcements from our side. And the curriculum thing is, we are working very aggressively on that. I think that will also boost up, a lot of our ecosystem.
Right, right. Great stuff, Mr. Lokesh. That brings us to the end of the second round, and now we're getting into the last segment. And this is a question we take from the social media. And this question comes from Rega Shrimali, who asks, would it be a good opportunity for us to start early with esports being a part of school curriculums or education system? Wouldn't like an early access to sports help churn more athletes for the sports?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think a lot of sense into what she's saying. And that is where, and this also connects to our part of, wasting time, playing video games is not good and all those things. So initial time in itself, let's say a school, let's say first, second, third class students are actually, let's say, playing games like Minecraft or trying out their games on games like Minecraft. So that will help. And while our Indian government is building another, I think, the board for sports, our whole intention here would be to kind of get esports also included into that kind of a program, so that it helps, because that's the future, right? So it helps us in identifying, and it I think this question has makes a lot of sense, because in esports the shelf life of our esports athlete is very less in comparison to a digital sport wherein you can spend like 10-15 years playing the same sport and part of the national team and all those things. In our case, because our game is largely dependent upon your eye-hand coordination and your responsiveness, so as you grow older, your performance will go down. But typically at the age group of, let's say, 14 to 21 or like 18, 19, that's a peak wherein your responses are at the peak. And that's the right time for such kind of games. So, I think it makes a lot of sense, and let's keep our fingers crossed. We should be able to, do that.
Fantastic stuff, sir. Thank you so much. This brings us to the end of our today's show. Thank you so much for educating us about the sports less explored by many. And this is a conversation that genuinely deserves to get the popularity in our country it deserves. I hope you had a good time on the show.
No, absolutely, Dakshin. I think it's good. We should do more such sessions, and let me know. I'll be very happy to come on board for this.
Superb, sir. Right. I look forward to it. And thank you. And I wish you, your goals, and the esports world all the best wishes for the years to come.
Thank you. Thanks, Dakshin. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, that's the end of today's show. So is it time that we talk more about esports in our country? What do you think about the sports, and which is your favorite esport? If you have any questions on the same, you can also write it to me at deliberatetalks@gmail.com or connect with me on the social media channels and the audio platforms. Join in next Monday for another episode with a new guest. And until then, please take care of yourself and don't forget to inspire and be inspired.